Father Davis needs no introduction.
But I am Father Michael Davis, a priest of the Archdiocese of Miami, ordained 34 years, and most of that time I have spent in education ministry. I've also been a pastor 3 times with large grade schools. And so I'm a product of Catholic education. I was taught by the Franciscan sisters from Indiana when I was growing up in Ohio, and went to one of the Archdiocese of Cincinnati's wonderful secondary schools, Catholic high schools. This is a wonderful archdiocese for Catholic education. Went to a school called Father Stephen T. Baden High School, and Father Baden was the very first priest that was ordained in the United States. And so gratefully, I had on the faculty during those years probably about 7 priests and maybe about 10 nuns. It was a tremendous Catholic atmosphere there. And so I was the product of all of their good formation work. Other than liturgy and the celebration of the sacraments on Sundays in our parishes, obviously, in my opinion, the primordial ministry that the Church offers is none other than Catholic schools. Our Catholic parochial school and certainly the regional Catholic high schools. It is a privilege and an honor to work on behalf of and minister to the children of the King. Let's be honest about what we're actually doing. We are ministering to the youngest among us to pass on the faith to the next generation. What wouldn't we do to ensure the advancement of the mission, to provide operational strength for our program and the long-term sustainability of the parish and its school? As priests, as principals, we have an enormous responsibility. None of us really went into ministry or into schoolwork to do budget work, to do administration, to do finances, and to pay bills, and to hire and fire, and to create contracts. None of us really went into the ministry to do those sorts of things. But we know that the contemporary job description of a pastor and or a principal of our parochial school or secondary school includes these great responsibilities for the institutional and fiscal health of our schools. It is hard work. I admit I went into the priesthood because of preaching and sacraments and ministry and pastoral care. I did not go into it for budgets and for finances and administrative matters. Most of our teachers who end up to be principals did not go into teaching as a vocation because they wanted to be in the central office. They went into it because they wanted to touch the future and to make a difference in children's lives. But this is an important element in the normal administrative responsibilities of a pastor or a principal. Most of my comments today could apply to a parish just as equally as it could apply to a school. And so rather than talk today about the nuts and bolts of budget, which I have somehow become a financial guru in talking about budget work, and I teach a course on budget at Pontifex, I'd like to get behind the budget a little bit and do a little bit of some prelude reflections on what goes behind the budget, or what's some things that have to take place before we get the actual budgetary work underway. I would suggest that there is a secular scenario that takes place. It's a cycle. It moves these 3 items. You get through the 3 of them in sequence, and then ultimately you have to start it over again. And it happens every year and may even happen multiple times a year. You keep the rotation of this cycle going. And it has to do with marketing, it has to do with recruitment, and it has to do with retention. And at first glance, you might not think that there's anything to do with budgetary work in those scenarios, but obviously we want to attract people to our program. The more people you have in seats, the more revenue dollars are coming into the institution, and therefore you have more money to spend on the advancement of the mission and the program. We're mission driven, but we're also tuition driven. And I would suggest to you that we be data driven as well. We have to pay attention to the data in front of us about matriculation, about our enrollment practices, about the students that we have in our seats, and how many are going to be coming back and how many we're holding on to. Actually, before I get into just the read-through of some of these reflections, if you could turn to the last page in my handout for a moment. Let's do some numbers first before we get into the reflections. I have two exhibits here. Exhibit number one happens to be a high school, and it was the high school that I was the supervising principal and president of. I'll tell you some things about this exhibit, and I'll tell you what it was when I left in 2008. But in 2000, when I arrived, it was a brand new high school, only by 2 years of existence. And we had gradually, for the 2 previous years, we had added 1 year at a time. So we initially started with a freshman year, then we added the sophomore year, then we added the junior year, and finally, the next year, we added a senior year. So you'll notice that it gradually happened, that it unfolded. You'll see, if you look at the totals can be a fooler at times because it shows an upward trajectory, which is, oh, we're growing, this is great. However, there may be some data within the data that can actually point to something that needs our administrative attention. So if you look at the 9th grade, you'll see that those numbers are going up. And yes, at first glance at the 10th grade, it looks like the numbers are going up. Yes, indeed, the 11th grade, the numbers are going up, except, whoops, we lost a couple in 2002, 11th grade, the 3rd year there, it just dropped. In terms of you go straight across the line, it looks like we only dropped 2. But I want to call your attention to something that's very interesting. Go back up to the year 2000 in the 9th grade. Notice what it says there was the total, 110 students. Then follow the data, follow the progression. They now become sophomores the following year. We went up to 115 students. Now follow that progression again, go down to the next one where it's the 11th grade, the following year, 2002. It dropped to 105. We lost 10 students there. This forced us to take a look and say, why did we lose 10 students? What happened to them? We did some exit interviews and we found out that there was actually a fairly bad English literature teacher. She had been rather strict and severe in her grading. Some very good students got low grades. They were on a trajectory to do very well academically. They were embarrassed by the grades that they got, and it had perhaps nothing to do with their own academic prowess. We investigated a little bit more. Her grading procedures were strict and difficult. Some of her assignment expectations were different from what our norms were. And there were 10 families that were very upset that their student was not being treated appropriately or succeeding in the way that they thought that they should, and they attributed it to that particular teacher. We had to do some investigation on that particular teacher, find out what was going on. Turned out that she wasn't following our own procedures and policies in place, and she was making it particularly difficult. 10 very good students we lost that year, and that's what explains how we dropped from 115 down to 105. So sometimes the data can give us some insights in terms of how we are to administrate, make personnel decisions, make financial decisions. We had another case during the same period of time in which there was a baseball coach that in some circles was popular, in other circles he was not. And it turned out that, well, he actually was pretty brutal in his critique of his players and using rather strong, colorful 4-letter word language in his way of coaching. Ultimately, we let him go, and we lost 9 players that particular season because they were upset that the baseball coach happened to be let go. I just tell you these kinds of stories simply to say there are, extenuating circumstances that impact enrollment and retention. And if the retention numbers get out of control and you see a downward trajectory, you have to pay attention to that and do some investigation in order to see what is causing that loss of students. You're hemorrhaging something, you're losing students. Why are you losing students? It's financially important because if we lose students for every seat that's empty, we're losing, let's just use a round figure of $10,000. If I lost 10 students this particular year, that's $100,000 that we lost in terms of what we have available for next year's operating budget. That's catastrophic in some circles. So it's very important for us to pay attention to that. So that's the high school scenario. I will tell you, if we were to spread out the data and go all the way to 2008, when I left the school, we had 798 students. So you'll see where back in 2003, it was only 519. What explains that boom in attendance in our little place? It had everything to do with marketing and leadership and vision and being mission driven and keeping our eye on the 8 ball as far as effective financial decisions. And so we were able to get some good momentum, and that's what explained that. Let's go down to exhibit number 2 for a moment. I don't know if you notice anything, but let me just call your attention to the fact that at pre-K3 in 1995, we had 0 because we had no pre-K3. However, the following year in 1996, we opened up the new school building. In fact, we had 6 new classrooms in our new building, which enabled us not only to have a pre-K3 class, but we were able to have a +1 gain in our pre-K4 program. In kindergarten, which in the second year, 1996, jumped up to 60 students, that was a +3 gain in terms of classes. And if we go all the way down to grade 6 in that second year, 1996, it went from 57 to 80, and that was a +1 gain. So that explains the 6 new classrooms that we were able to put in circulation. Then if you look at the very bottom, you see the totals. It went from 614 to 682, 718, 749. That shows an upward trajectory. The data doesn't lie. It shows that you're growing. However, it could have grown more. And so it is worthy of taking a look at what happens. Now, if you look at pre-K4 in 1995, I've underlined the number 14. Follow the data, go to the next year when they were in kindergarten, it jumped to 60 because of the 3 new classrooms. Notice what happened the following year. It went up to 74 because of recruitment and marketing. And then in 1998, it went to 81. We grew even some more. So we were on a growth trajectory. This is pretty good. If you fast forward the story to 2002, we had a Monsignor who was a real mover and shaker in terms of Catholic education. He ballooned the enrollment to 887. So it was 749 in 1998 when he took over. It was 887 several years later. Then when he was succeeded by a pastor who was not a proponent of Catholic education, one of the first things out of the mouth of this particular pastor was, well, St. Gregory will not be in existence 10 years from now. That sent shockwaves through the community. The parent community was upset. The alumni base was upset. All kinds of people were upset. It suddenly dropped down to 700. From 887, it went down to 700 out of fears and worries. Just to let you know where we stood this past year, because I'm in the rebuilding process of renewing this particular school, we're at 721 at the moment. So it's actually a good number, but it's just that I want to get back to the good old Monsignor's numbers of, you know, the 887. In fact, I'd like to have 888. I'd like to beat the record. So I want 888. But I present this to you just to say, budgeting also has everything to do with the numbers of enrolled and matriculated students and those that you're able to retain. We want to keep kids in our seats, obviously, because we want to pass on our treasured mission and evangelizational goals to them and their families. But we also want to have the revenue stream that's created by the tuition dollars that comes in from every single seat that is ultimately assumed by a paying customer, quote unquote. So in my way of thinking, marketing, recruitment and enrollment, and retention, this is the cycle that keeps going around year after year. You must have an intentional marketing program. You must have your intentionally deliberate eyes on your recruitment and enrollment numbers, and you must pay attention to the data with regard to retention. These are the essentials in support of institutional vitality and fiscal health. So just to read along with some of this material here, because I want to make sure we cover some key points. In the institutional budget, there are many topics that feed into the revenue stream of a Catholic school. Among the most foundational of these topics are marketing initiatives with a view to recruitment and enrollment of students. There's subsequent payment of tuition and fees that come into the institutional operating account, and the efforts to hold on to our matriculated students through retention. Marketing and advertising are exciting endeavors. When done effectively, they're going to make our recruitment efforts more robust, feeding into enrollment, leading to more students in seats, which leads to stronger revenue streams and access to families regarding the passing on of our treasured mission. Leaders of Catholic schools need to embrace a deliberate marketing posture as part of their administrative charge. We can't just presume that our good reputation is going to be drawing people to our school, though we hope that that happens. But actually there needs to be a certain deliberate intentionality about how we present our program. Richard Burke of the Catholic School Management Company up in New England, he writes it this way: marketing is a way of communicating who we are, what we're about, what is our mission, why we exist, what we're trying to do, and why the constituencies of people out there should enroll their students in our school. Catholic schools can be marketed for image, for enrollment, and for financial support. So obviously, if we have a good reputation and we've marketed that reputation, we're drawing people into the program. We are targeting specific constituencies, maybe feeder parishes to our high school, or other groups that might feed into our grade school, namely our parishioners and families in the surrounding area. We can market for enrollment, but we can also market our school and its reputation and what we're about to broader constituencies who might be supporters and benefactors of our program. And therefore, we can get some resources that help underwrite some of our hopes and dreams for the future. Number 3, we want our total program to be so enthralling in its self-presentation, which is marketing, that potential recruits will want to enroll in our school, and currently enrolled students will want to stay with us. Why? Because they feel blessed by our program, love being with their teachers and friends, excited to be in our school family because they're growing in their zeal and appetite for learning and personal development, and in this context, receiving the values and virtues that enrich their lives and bring them into a relationship with Christ and the ministering church. So such a mission-driven purpose should guide the administrative responsibilities of pastors and principals in their leadership of Catholic schools and their budgetary decision-making, putting teeth behind the mission. Enrollment is really king. I mean, we want to fill the seats, and we want to have as many kids as possible in our program for the sake of the reach of the gospel, but also for the economic revenue stream that is created by every seat that has a corresponding tuition payment. And so matriculated students in our Catholic school clearly is our goal. Such a purpose gives us access to souls, and stated more broadly, access to families. Just as marketing needs to be done deliberately, so too recruitment and enrollment are deliberate endeavors. We want to fill seats for the sake of the mission, but we also want to fill seats to increase the institutional revenue stream, enhancing our economic strength, enabling us to enhance, even expand the reach of our mission. It is the mission we have as Catholic school administrators to not only recruit students, but by their enrollment to enrich them through the offerings and that we offer, and to assure them that they have a positive experience. This is surely the backdrop to holding on to them, retaining them in our program. Are they having a positive experience? Or is something going wrong with their time among us? Whether it be academic, whether it be problems with teachers, with coaches, with friends, social experiences, what have you. There could be some things that will impact a student's, enrollment, matriculation satisfaction. If we offer an attractive, engaging program, we will probably inspire the lion's share of our students to stay with us throughout the entirety of their educational journey in our school. We can't control the mobility of our society. I mean, families move from one part of the country to another. They move from, one county to another. The fathers and mothers both take jobs in different parts of the country. So there's a lot of mobility that happens culturally. So we can't control that, but we certainly want to control the lion's share of those that are enrolled in our school, and we want to retain them. We certainly don't want anyone to have a bad experience in our Catholic mission-driven environment. And so we should pay attention to the numbers, follow the data. Are we on a growth trajectory or not? Are students staying or leaving? If they're leaving, why are they leaving? Are there problems that need to be resolved? If there are weak links in our administrative structure, our administrative team, maybe in the curriculum that's offered, maybe in the sports or extracurricular offerings, maybe there might be some buyer's remorse after you've taken the time to market your school and bring them into enrollment in our school. Maybe they get there and they find out that the marketing and what they knew about the school, or what they thought they knew about the school, doesn't match the reality of their experience. And so maybe those things need to be addressed and rectified. We want to inspire our students to want to stay. It's called retention. Retention is an essential component for institutional stability. It is also essential to a hoped-for revenue stream. Top of the next page. The administrative components of marketing, recruitment, enrollment, and retention have financial implications which feed the revenue stream of the institution, essential to institutional vitality, mission effectiveness, and fiscal health. So just to dig a little bit more deeply into marketing and recruitment, and maybe to give you some ideas. We have to attractively, positively, beautifully, inspiringly present what the school does and why it does it. So marketing and recruitment methodologies, they could require various modalities of communication. Among them would be printed materials. This is rather basic. It's not rocket science. You're already doing a lot of this, but it's important to see what options we have before us. So we create flyers, we create brochures, booklets, information packets, newsletters, which should be attractive, interactive, with lots of photos, warm feeling tone, capturing images of the mission coming to life. All these materials should be readily available for dissemination at the front door of the school, maybe in the vestibule of the church, for distribution to parishioners, to visitors, potential recruits, as promotional materials when taking the marketing and recruitment initiatives on the road that we can pass out to the people to whom we're speaking, or for use in direct mailings or digital versions in the context of email communication. We cannot underestimate the importance of social media posts, whether it be on our parish or school websites, our Facebook and Instagram posts. I was changing planes in the Charlotte airport on Saturday. And as I was waiting, I had a 4-hour layover. And as I was waiting there in the airport, I went up into that balcony that overlooks that center section where everybody's walking and the moving sidewalk and the guy is playing the piano, and all this is going on there in the Charlotte airport. And I had a lot of time just to do people watching. And as I was looking at everyone there who were all seated in various seats and in restaurants and, in the rocking chairs and all the things that were there, everybody had a cell phone. Either they were talking on it, or they were working on it, or they had an ear pod and they're, interacting with someone, or they're doing some work, or they're reading something. Even those that were in transit and were walking had a cell phone with them. And I looked at, I was actually then trying to find how many didn't have a cell phone, how many didn't have, an iPad, and it was a negligible number. And so as a result, it goes to show that we have had a major tidal shift in terms of how we communicate, how we market, how we reach our constituencies, how we define ourselves, describe ourselves, get our name out there. Even when it comes to going to Mass, I can't tell you the number of visitors we have in touristy South Florida where they'll go on catholicmass.org and they'll find out what the Mass schedule is of the closest parish to wherever their hotel is. They don't look at, there's no such thing as the yellow pages anymore. There's no such thing as, maybe informational flyers even in the hotels where they can find where the nearby Catholic parish is at. They now go online, they use their phone, and they do a Google search to find out where the nearest Catholic parish is at. So this goes to show that we cannot underestimate the significance of social media, of web communication to our various constituencies and would-be recruits. I think letter C, we have to have direct advertising initiatives. We can use magazines, diocesan or local newspapers, parish bulletins, signage, bus stop benches, buses, billboards, promotional videos, television commercials. In Florida, we have hurricanes, and during the hurricane season, we used to rent, or I should say purchase, one of those ticker tape information scrolls that go at the bottom of a TV screen. And, it's different advertisements of things or different news bulletins. Well, they also had a marketing initiative where people could put up an ad. And so we had a commercial that said, Archbishop Carroll High School now open for enrollment, come to our open house on such and such a date. And it was scrolling at the bottom of the TV screen during the hurricane season when everyone was watching the Weather Channel to see what was going on. So we thought that that might work, that might help. Another thing, I mentioned billboards here. I decided to look into a billboard, a digital billboard. And you might think, well, how does that fit into all this? Well, it has everything to do with marketing. At the Fort Lauderdale airport, there are no less than 100,000 people a day that fly into that airport. My parish is not far from that airport. If you follow national statistics, 26% of the US population is at least baptized Catholic. So we have to presume that there is probably 26% of the people who are among that 100,000 people landing at that airport probably have some kind of touch with Catholicism, and maybe a fair number of them are looking for a church to go to for Sunday Mass. So I actually purchased 2 billboards, but the one that I got was right next to the exit ramp coming out of the Fort Lauderdale airport, so that everyone who flew into that airport or exited from that airport every day would have to pass that billboard for 4 months. I rented it for 3. The guy happened to be Catholic and he gave me a month for free. But I had 4 months of a digital billboard that had a picture of me. I didn't want to be on it, honestly. It wasn't a self-promotion, but it was a picture of me because of the collar, and it was a picture of a nun in a veil. And it simply said, St. Gregory the Great welcomes you to Fort Lauderdale. That's all it said. And it gave the impression, wow, this must be a prominent parish. This must be like the place to go to if you're Catholic. And so we had a lot of people coming on Sunday to go to Mass who were visitors because they saw that sign. I didn't put the address. I didn't put the email address. I didn't put the directions. I didn't put an arrow. I didn't put the phone number. I just said, St. Gregory the Great welcomes you to Fort Lauderdale. Well, what did they do? They took their cell phones and they Googled it and they found out where it was, and they punched in the St. Gregory and the address came up, and it gave them the GPS instructions and brought them to our church. Some of them actually carried their luggage in because they were on taxis or Ubers or whatever, and they were flying in to get on a cruise that was leaving us several hours later, so they wanted to go to Mass first. Or they're coming in from a cruise, a taxi drops them off at our church. They left the luggage in the back of the church. They attended Mass, they sang the songs, said their prayers, contributed to the collection, and then picked up their luggage and left. And it ended up that our numbers and our money went up in the church. But the second billboard that I had was also a billboard that said St. Gregory School celebrating 65 years. And we had a net gain of 23 students that year. 23, that's $230,000. That's almost $250,000 that came into our schools simply because of that marketing initiative. And we like to track with data, you follow the trends and you see what is it that gave rise to their notice of our particular school or of our parish. So direct advertising. I would say you can do a postcard mailing. You can do postings in the city Chamber of Commerce publications. Those are some direct advertising methodologies. Letter D, there's on-campus initiatives. You can have open houses, offer private tours, on-campus visits by feeder schools during the school day, 8th grade faculty and coaches dinners in the evening, information nights for parents, publicized musicals, plays, concerts, carnivals, contests, and sporting events, which welcome the visits of area schools and the broader community. If you advertise great things that are happening at the school, and make it available for public consumption, people will come. They want to participate and see the grade school students will want to see the area high school students that are playing on the basketball team and they're, in the playoff run, and they want to be part of the excitement and the hoopla as well. So, or the musicals and the plays and the poetry recitations and different things like that will appeal to various constituencies. You get people on campus, they see what we're doing, they like what we're doing, they want to be part of what we're doing. It's an enrollment ploy, it's a marketing ploy leading to enrollment. And so then we have off-campus initiatives, visits to feeder parish classrooms. I used to go as the supervising principal and president of the high school, and I would take a few students and the athletic director with me. We'd hop in my car and we would go out to all the area feeder schools, and we would offer presentations to the 8th graders who were in those feeder schools. And we would tell them about our high school, about the laurels of our high school, about how we love the high school and what it can bring to them. And so those direct marketing efforts of outreach going to visit students. We even had student assemblies where I addressed them. I visited CCD classes and talked to CCD parents saying, why be in CCD? We've got a great Catholic school. Why don't you tap into that? We were trying to encourage that. A priest preaching of the laurels of Catholic education and the benefits of a particular school at the Sunday masses in a particular parish in the area feeder parishes. I did the whole circuit, the whole routine of going around from parish to parish, and I would schedule a weekend at this parish, a weekend at another parish, and I would have the pulpit. I talked about Catholic education. I would greet people at the door of church. We had information and registration tables set up at the door of church. That turned out to be very fruitful, raising the consciousness of people to, first of all, the availability of our high school, but secondly, stirring up interest because of our convictional talking about it and the ease of registration. And so we did that. We also had information tables set up. We scoured the neighborhoods with flyers on door handles. You're not allowed to put flyers in mailboxes and post office boxes. You are supposed to put flyers that advertise your program or whatever you're selling has to be attached with a rubber band to the door handle of a particular house or business or office or whatever the case is. That could be a marketing initiative. We also put flyers on windshields in shopping centers. I remember driving a group of kids, this is a few years ago, but driving a group of kids who wanted some service hours. They helped me on a Saturday morning, and we went through the parking lots of the major malls and strip malls in the area. And on every car, we put a flyer of Archbishop Carroll High School just to raise name consciousness among the people who are coming out from doing their grocery shopping or doing their shopping at the market. And they saw the flyer on the windshield, and it invited them to our open house. We got a bunch of people that came to us through that methodology. We also did visits to area private schools as well. My nephew, Will, was just accepted in a school here in the Archdiocese of Cincinnati called Mother Teresa Academy. And shortly after his acceptance into the kindergarten program at this wonderful new grade school, parochial school, it turns out that someone from the development office from that school came out to their household, which would have been my niece's household. This is my grandnephew. And they found in their front yard one of those signs that's on the metal stands that you stick in the front yard, like the political signs that we see out there right now. And in this case, it said, "Welcome to the Mother Teresa Catholic School family." This was just an initiative of the development office for the sake of marketing and for the sake of warm feeling tone, that they actually went out and put one of those signs in the front yard of one of their newest matriculated families. They came out and said, "Oh, look at this. Wow, they really care about us," was my niece's take on it. And my nephew felt super affirmed that he was important. He's part of the Mother Teresa family now. And so that's yet another off-campus initiative, but something very significant. You can use promotional gifts for current community members and or visitors. So don't underestimate how these things can be in circulation and get the name out. You can have keychains and towels and hats and socks and bumper stickers and magnets, pencils and pens and jackets and t-shirts, items which carry the branding of the school. You get them in the right hands and people are saying, well, what is this? Oh, I never heard of Archbishop Carroll High School, or I never heard of Mother Teresa Academy. And then before too long, they're going on the website and they're looking into to see more information. Some other things that might be on the more minor side of things, but let's not underestimate this, would be other on-campus considerations. So what does your school look like? What's the exterior decor look like? Is it clean? Is it painted? Does it look fresh? Does it look new? Does it look inviting? What about the interior decor? Is there religious art, hallway bulletin boards which speak of the mission, the successes of your school, showcasing your student work, trophy cases, banners of achievement? All these contributed to the attractiveness of the facilities. And when you have these tours and you have these open houses, people are walking down the halls and they're seeing all these things. It speaks of the local scholastic culture that you have in place. Impressions. What about the distinctive professional attire that is worn by faculty and staff, maybe attractive school uniforms, maybe even the maintenance and custodial staff? Does this look, and the cafeteria staff, does this look like a professional organization? Does this look like you care about what you're doing? You can make a dignified statement that's very impactful and leaves positive impressions. People want to be where successful people can be found, and even those impressions are worth cultivating. Final couple things here about enrollment. Enrollment has everything to do with inspiring and fostering the decision to sign up and matriculate. Obviously, marketing leads to enrollment, recruitment and enrollment, which leads to our need for retention. But enrollment is among the critical goals of our marketing efforts. So by drawing students to our program, we hope to recruit them for matriculation in our school. The enrollment of our students may be only second in importance to the issue of maintaining the Catholic identity and character of the school. And to do this, we have to use additional communicational techniques which address the question of the why. Why should I enroll in this school? Oftentimes, enrollment has to do with the justification of the purchase decision. When money is on the line and when a decision is emotionally charged, providing impetus for a sought-after future, serious parental discernment is suddenly activated. Recruitment efforts must appeal to the value of the purchase, as well as the human and personal benefits received as a result of the purchase. Don't really like to use that word of purchase as if it's just a contractual sale, but on the other hand, to use business jargon and business language leads us to understand how people do discern the selection of a school and the justification of them spending 10 grand or more per year on tuition. Students and their parents must see that the school is a good fit for their needs and interests, as well as for their well-being. Lots of details are highlighted in the salesmanship of the school. Always seek to highlight the many different offerings, academically tailored to the many needs of our students, positioning them for the future of their choice. Likewise, always underscore the vibrant extracurricular activities and sports programs whose many options would attract interest. Also manifest the difference the school makes because of immersion into a faith community with values that last for a lifetime and beyond. Conviction and zeal about these matters go a long way. More than anyone else, it falls to the pastor and the principal to be ambassadors on 2 feet for recruitment and enrollment. And finally, under enrollment would be don't underestimate the impact value of the personal ask. I see people at the door of church. I see people out and about. As I'm around the Archdiocese, hey, what school do you go to? Well, have you ever thought about Archbishop Carroll? Have you ever thought about St. Gregory? Have you ever thought about Catholic schools? The personal ask goes a long way, whether it's the student that I ask or whether it's the parents particularly. At least it leads them to reflect. They may end up signing up and being part of our school family. And finally, just a few thoughts on retention. Retention has everything to do with providing currently enrolled students and their families, giving them a reason to stay. We want to hold on to them. And as I was talking about before, follow the data. Are there any discoveries you can make by following the entrance and departure trends? That may be revealing as to how you can tweak things, enhance the program, or assure that you're on a growth trajectory rather than losing money and hemorrhaging. Intentionally create a positive and meaningful experience for students and their parents. In the spirit of Christian charity, assure that the students feel cared about by the school staff members and their fellow students. We want our kids to have a good experience. We lost a girl last year and actually a boy last year who somehow felt unaccepted by their peers. How do you turn that around? It's very difficult. You can only pastoral counsel that so much. At some point, it's their feeling tone. It's their sense of feeling welcome or not. It's their acceptance by their peers or their rejection. And we did lose 2 students because of that. I had to address the students who remained, saying, you know, can we create a better atmosphere of welcome and looking out for each other's welfare and do unto others as you would have them do unto you. It's forming a Christian mindset in how to change the local culture. Design community building activities which foster a real sense of belonging, including retreats and spiritual nourishment that a faith community naturally should provide. And involve students in extracurricular activities which appeal to interests and create a sense of purpose and pride. They want to have school pride. They want to belong to something that's a success. They want to, be part of where the Musketeers are at, or be part of where the Crusaders are at, or whatever your iconic image is. They want to show that not only by the uniforms and the paraphernalia that they use that shows school pride, but also just the interior convictions of pride that they're part of something big, something part of important. This is a cycle that goes round and round. We're never done with marketing. We're never done with our efforts at recruitment enrollment. We're never done with our care that we use in the topic of retention. May you succeed in that cycle as we keep our schools strong. Thank you.